What does the Trump presidency mean for real estate in Huntsville? We'll cover that today, but before we do, make sure you like the video and hit subscribe below to stay on top of all of the latest Huntsville, Alabama real estate news. Well, it's not as straightforward as it was the last time Trump was elected in 2016. There's been a lot change in the world since then. We've had a pandemic, we've had a lot of things happen in the economy, because we're in a much worse position when it comes to inflation, like we mentioned, the economy, and really the debt position of the country as well. So there's a lot to factor in as we look at what a Trump presidency looks like for real estate here in Huntsville. For the Trump presidency, there's really two main factors that we want to look at and how that could impact the local Huntsville, Alabama real estate market. Number one is interest rates, and the other thing is just home values in general across the market. So first, let's jump into interest rates. I can see a couple different scenarios really going on over the next 4 years. Number one is I can make a case for interest rates going up, and I can make a case for interest rates going down. So for interest rates going up, you can just point to what's happened. So since the odds of Trump winning the election has increased, so has the 10-year treasury yield, which is loosely tied to the 30-year mortgage rates as well. So 30-year mortgage rates have increased, as has Trump's odds of winning and ultimately winning the election as well, because post-election now we had a booming stock market, which has put pressure on bond rates, which has put pressure on 10-year treasury yields, and then also 30-year mortgage rates as well. And so you just look at the facts, and interest rates have gone up since it looked like Trump was going to be elected, and now that Trump is elected as well. And so that's what we've seen kind of in the short term. Long term, the economic policy that he's wanting to put into place in terms of tariffs could have short-term and even long-term inflationary impact on our country. And so that could also impact what the Fed does in terms of interest rates as well. And so if you believe that Trump is good for the economy, that could also create additional inflation and put pressure on the Fed on their rate policies as well. Now, in terms of interest rates going down, Trump wants more control over the Fed. And so if he gets his way and finds a way to oust Jerome Powell or influence Jerome Powell, then you could see rates coming back down. The other thing too is the Fed is on that trajectory. They had a half-point rate cut, then they did a quarter rate cut. I think it was a couple days after the election as well. And there's several more rate cuts that are predicted and slated for 2025 as well. And so that's the trajectory that we're going into. However, Fed rate cuts don't directly tie into 30-year mortgage rates. And so, that can come into play. But for the odds of interest rates going down, you look at what Trump is saying and you look at what the Fed is doing. Again, it could go either way, could go up, could go down. I do think, weighing all the data, I do think we are going to see lower rates in 2025. If we're at, say, around 7% 30-year mortgage rates right now, I think you're going to see rates come down into perhaps the mid fives, and I think definitely probably into the high fives at the worst case scenario. But I do see lower interest rates for 2025. All right, so let's talk about home values. So, if you just look at the voting electorate across the state, about 2 out of 3 Alabamians voted for Trump. And so, the people that voted for him are really excited right now about the outcome of the election. So that euphorium, in a sense, I think is creating, potentially additional showings and additional contracts and additional sales out in the marketplace right now. Either way, you've got a lot of people wait until the end of the election to make decisions. And so you've got that behind us. And so you've already got that boost. And so what we saw is showing skyrocketed the weekend after he was elected. So part of that, again, just election behind us. Again, the other part is 2 out of 3 Alabamians voted for him. And so there's a lot of people that are excited about what the economy might bring in Alabama in 2025. Also, you look at past history, mortgage, again, the world is a completely different place in 2016, but mortgage applications were up after he was elected in 2016 as well. So if that trend continues, that could be good in terms for home values in Alabama, and particularly in Huntsville for 2025. I think the other thing that you've got too is you got 2.5 million would-be sellers that have set out the last 2 years due to this mortgage rate lock-in effect, which has nothing to do with whoever gets elected for president. It was just that interest rates went so high and they had such low interest rates locked in that if rates do go down in 2025, even a fraction of those, even say 20% of those 2.5 million, that'd be an extra 500,000 homes on the market in 2025, that would have a big impact, not only in the local Tennessee Valley, but across the US as well. And then I think the big one too that you got to talk about is Space Command. It is, a lot of people think that he's going to announce that Space Command is going to come to the Huntsville area. And if that is the case, it is the Rocket City, why not have Space Command in the Rocket City? That could create and probably will create a booming housing market in the Huntsville area as we just look at adding all those additional jobs into the marketplace. So the case for home values potentially going down in 2025 and going into a recession potentially across the US, number one, you've got to look at affordability. The average mortgage rate back in 2016, or an average mortgage, about $1,200 versus about $2,800 now. The percentage of income that Americans spend towards housing used to be at 24%. Now it's at an extremely unhealthy number of 40%. And then that's affecting when people buy homes. The average first-time home buyer in the US is now 38 years old. So that number continues to increase dramatically over the last couple of years. And then the second thing is this kind of Trump reset. Again, we're in a much different world economically. Can Trump and his team thread the needle on their policy reset in terms of cutting government jobs and cutting government spending, which would be deflationary and potentially, decrease the economy, the GDP across the US, tax cuts, which is going to potentially make an even further deficit in this country, tariffs, which could be inflationary as well, and then managing this overall looming debt crisis. Not an easy task at all. So one could easily say that Trump or anybody else in 2024 is going to have a hard time threading that needle and not creating kind of an economic crisis in 2025 that's been looming. So with all that, again, there's a lot going on that could go either direction. I do think for the Tennessee Valley, especially with the potential announcement of Space Command getting back announced for the Huntsville area, I think we're gonna see modest price gains of about 5%. I could see even higher depending on how the economy heats up under this administration. So 2025 could honestly go either way, but I'm leaning towards a more typical year in terms of about 5% appreciation for the Tennessee Valley. So whether you're watching this video and you're getting relocated with Space Command coming to the Huntsville area, or if you're a first-time home buyer and don't want that stat to be true of you, where you're waiting till you're 38 to buy your first home, or if you're a seller that's wanting to take advantage of the potential increase in value in 2025 and all the additional showings that we've seen, here at Matt Curtis Real Estate, we're the #1 team in Alabama for the past 5 years. We look forward to serving you into 2025, and you can reach us at 256-333-MOVE.